Hello, and welcome to the Write Club podcast, where we take you behind the pages and into the fascinating world of writing. I'm Beth, and this is Mary, and we're part of the team at Writing Magazine and Writers Online. Hi, Mary, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. I'm looking forward to this book club episode. So every month we choose a book that was featured in the latest issue of Writing Magazine to read and discuss. And today we're going to talk about The Mercy Step by Marcia Hutchinson. Marcia wrote a piece for our September issue, Your Life, Your Way, where she discusses autofiction, which is a method of writing a story based on your own life. It's a great piece, so I recommend giving that a read if you're interested in the process of writing a fictional autobiography.
Marcia Hutchinson was born to Windrush generation Jamaican parents in the UK in 1962. She was the first pupil from her comprehensive school to go to Oxford, where she gained an MA in law. She worked as a lawyer before founding the educational publishing company Primary Colours, which she ran until 2014. She was awarded an MBE in 2011 for services to cultural diversity. Moving to Manchester in 2012, she became a community activist and was eventually elected as a Labour councillor in 2021. She is now a full-time writer and an active member of the Black Writers Guild. She is co-author with Kate Griffin under the pseudonym Lila Kane of the historical fiction novel The Blackbirds of St Giles, which is going to be published this year. The Mercy Step is her literary debut as a solo writer.
She's an impressive lady, all right. Okay, so let's set the scene for The Mercy Step. Bradford, December 1962. A precocious Mercy makes her reluctant entrance into the world, torn from the warm embrace of her mother's womb to a chaotic household that seems to have no place for her. Her siblings do not understand her, her mother's attention is given to the church, and the entire family lives at the whims of her father's quick temper. Left to herself, Mercy finds solace in books, her imagination, and the quiet comfort of her favourite toy dolly. But escapism has its limits, and as the grip of family, faith, and fear threatens to close in, Mercy learns she must act if she wants a different future, one where she is seen, heard, and her family set free. So, would you recommend this book to someone, Beth?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a really hard read at some points, but it does have so many amazing elements to it that I think anybody would really enjoy. What about you?
Yeah, I loved it. It's that amazing blend of being really readable and having a really great voice that's quite humorous and sort of playful. It's very playful, but then the subject matter is quite dark in not all of it, but there are a lot of quite dark things in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that, like you said, the voice was incredible, and it's really clever how she made the voice so perfect at each stage of her life. And I mean, there was a couple of parts with the Jamaican family when they were speaking that I had to actually say the sentence out loud because I couldn't quite work out, because obviously it wasn't just spelt like how it's spelt, it was spelt how they say it.
Yeah.
And the accent threw me off a little bit, so I was having to say these lines out loud, and my partner was like, what are you saying? But
Yeah.
as soon as I said it out loud, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I understand what they're actually trying to say.
It could have gone so badly wrong, that couldn't it? Like putting accents into writing and also writing from the perspective of a child. And actually, she writes from the perspective of a baby to start with. And you think that's not going to work, but it absolutely does.
Yeah, it's really, really clever. And I mean, one of the book clubs that we actually did, the first book club episode with Royston O'Donnell's book Nesting, she's actually featured on the front cover of the book. And she's put, I laughed, I cried, Mercy's voice will stay with me for a very long time. And I thought that just perfectly sums up how I felt the entire book. And her voice will stay with me for a very,
Mm.
very long time. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
brilliant writing.
And the scenery, I can see it so clearly. And I don't know if that's because I know Bradford very well. What do you think? Could you see it?
Yeah, I really could. I thought the imagery was perfect. And I really felt myself kind of immersed in this little girl's life, bless her heart.
Yeah.
She had a bit of a rough time, didn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very protective of her as well. I sort of miss her and I want to know, that and I know that she is okay because she's sort of Marcia, isn't she? And
Well, yeah, of course. And did you find the author's writing style easy to read or hard?
think mainly easy, actually. Like you said with the accent, there were times when I also had to say it out loud. But I thought that was so clever because I really felt I could get a real understanding of her mother and her father, and then the relatives that came over as well. The older sister who came,
Oh yeah, of course.
yeah, she was a great character, especially as she came over and she was sort of a bit backwards. They were thinking she was anyway, a bit old country, and then she went off to London and became sort of really cool. And then when she came back, she was sort of helping them out and saying, what London was like. And so that was, I could really see that character. She was brilliant. Did any part of the book strike a particular emotion in you, and which part and what emotion?
I think the whole book in itself was just a roller coaster for me. Like, there were some really, really funny parts where I was laughing out loud. And I just thought like Mercy, how she was written, she was just really like wise
Yeah,
beyond her time. Um, so I mean, there was times, like I say, when I was laughing, and there was a lot of times where I was close to tears, um, and just felt so sorry for her, and just wanted her and her mum and her siblings to just escape this horrible, horrible man. But there was a part that I just really, I couldn't, it kind of stuck with me, where her mum had either ran away or was leaving, or she was going somewhere, and her father caught up with her and kind of basically beat her up in front of this shop, and the shop owner just took one look and then just put the sign from open to close and just completely ignored it, whilst Mercy was stood there watching this whole scene. And she grabbed a brick and was like almost threatening her dad with it. And that really stuck with me, the fact that people in that day and age, women were like second class citizens, and if you did see something on the street that was happening like that, you would, like, most people would have just walked back past and not even like batted an eyelid. And that really stuck with me.
yeah. There was a lot of violence in the story, wasn't there? And it wasn't just, I mean, the dad was, like you say, awful. But then even she had a teacher who kicked her
Yeah,
and
of
pretended
course.
that it was an accident, and yeah, and then she also described later on in the book how it was almost a game to run away from the far right, like neo-Nazis that were in Bradford at the time, and there's just so much danger that she
Yeah,
was in as a child, that they were all in,
yeah,
from adults and from other children because they weren't really supervised very well at all. I mean, there's an awful scene where the oldest child is looking after the other. I mean, how many were there altogether? Was she looking after the other four or five?
yeah, there
She
was
was only
a lot.
six herself,
Yeah,
and they're not listening to her. So she gets a red hot poker from the gas fire and lines them up and burns them all, including the baby. And it was just such a shocking scene.
yeah, it's awful. And you must think that that behavior, I mean, we all know that that behavior is not normal, but that they must have learnt that from seeing their father, because you see them witnessing them hit their dad hurting their mum, but you don't really see them learning that,
Mm,
thinking that it's okay. I mean, you see Mercy knowing the whole time that this isn't okay, and she even says sometimes, like, she said if he doesn't want her to leave him, he should just stop hitting her.
yeah,
Like, it's that simple. And she's only a child, and yet she's seeing all of these things, and she knows that it's not okay. But I think maybe her other siblings who weren't as kind of outspoken, they might have absorbed that behavior a little bit and thought that it was okay.
yeah.
There was also that scene with was it her cousin as well, and she doesn't tell you what happens. But she wanted some sweets, didn't she? And he was like, "Yeah, if you do this, I'll give you some sweets." And she doesn't tell you what happens, but you know. And it's, again, that's like really clever how it was written, because that was really would have been even more uncomfortable for it to be spelled out for us. And yet when this cousin then gets in trouble because he's been caught doing something to other, I think it was other children in the school or something.
Other little girls, yeah.
Yeah. that's when you realize what it was he was actually doing to her, and she was, it almost made her feel a bit, when it was happening, she felt special. And then when she finds out that it's happening to other girls as well, she almost gets a little bit annoyed that she wasn't the only one. It's oh, awful behavior.
Yeah, there was another awful scene as well with like an uncle
Mm,
where she again she's like the favorite of this uncle and he gives her a lot of attention and then it kind of takes a dark turn and again she knows that something's wrong and she kind of tries to sort of get away from him and go to her mother and then her mother's like, oh, get away from me, this is adult time type, children should be seen and not heard and
mm.
just yeah, I made a note of all the times where the children were just so unsafe. And I think Mercy stood out from her siblings because she's obviously incredibly bright. So she's seeing all of this and she's aware of things, and she also becomes a big reader.
Mhm.
And she has this amazing relationship with her mother, doesn't she, where she feels so connected to her mum and then also kind of let down by her. Her mum keeps having more babies and she has less of her attention, and the sort of the cord between them isn't as sharp, but she's also sort of a parentified child basically because she's got all these worries that a child her age should not have. She thinks that she can save her mum, and obviously that should never be on a child.
No, absolutely not. But like you say, though, she was incredibly smart, and to the point where she was 10 months old and they were playing a game with her to say, get her to say the word elephant on Mississippi, and almost like mocking her a little bit, to say like, oh yeah, look at my 10-month, or 10-month baby. And they were kind of, it was just weird that her and her friends were kind of like showcasing her as this like circus freak.
Yeah.
But yeah, her mum really aggravated me on multiple occasions. I think it's that same frustration, isn't it, where almost like what Mercy says about like, well, just leave. And it, again, it's not everyone knows it's never as simple as just leave, but the decisions and the things that she was deciding to do really were frustrating, because you just want her to be in Mercy's head
Mm.
and hear all of the thoughts that she's having and all of the feelings that she's having, but she doesn't really pay attention to it. She's so absorbed in her own kind of world that, I mean, she even forgot her daughter's birthday.
It just wasn't a big deal, was it,
No.
to celebrate the kids' birthdays?
Yeah.
But then I think you've also got to try and put yourself in their shoes a little bit. And, it was a different time and she was a black woman. So very, very little, no power actually. Brought over to this country, I don't think that was really what she wanted. She had to leave some of her children behind. And then, she's kind of at the will of this man. And then, anyway, he's not a good man. But then there is something in their relationship. There's little snippets that you see where they're dancing together. And, the way that he's described the father, there's obviously something quite attractive about him. Like, we don't really see it through Mercy's eyes, but and she doesn't understand why does her mother keep going back to him. And I guess that's an adult relationship that she can't fathom. But obviously, there is something between her parents, whether that, not saying that her mother should stay, absolutely not. But she's got no power, and obviously, he's got some kind of hold over her.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a lot of occasions. I think obviously he was drinking quite a lot as well, wasn't he? And gambling, and there was a lot of behaviors that he was showing that just he shouldn't have been making children, for one.
Yeah.
And there was,
Also, there was a bit about how he got beaten up in Bradford, wasn't there? Like, so
yeah,
there's that awful racial element in there. So he's going to be feeling he's going to have lost some power himself through that. And then obviously there's no excuse for it. But he's a frustrated man coming back. He's got all these people relying on him. Maybe this isn't quite the life that he thought he was coming for. I think that's an interesting thing about that Windrush generation. They were told that they were wanted over here,
yeah,
and the reality was pretty horrendous.
yeah, it's awful, isn't it? She was auditioning for like a nativity,
Mercy, yeah.
Yeah, and she said that she really wanted to be the Virgin Mary, but the black children only got to be sheep. And it's just you can't even fathom it nowadays, could you? The fact that they, like you say, not only were they a black family, but they were also women, and they had zero power whatsoever. At least the dad had some sort of power at some point because of his gender.
Yeah.
Um,
And then they were basically having children until they had a boy, weren't they?
yeah,
The one boy Pickney.
yeah,
They got him. And then she resented her younger sisters, but she really resented him when he came along because he was the golden child. And then, they didn't need to have any more children. So
no.
that, I mean, what that must do to your sense of self.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's the whole point of her having that Dolly as her little best friend is that she could keep talking at Dolly and telling her all of her secrets and everything, and she would never answer her back. Which is quite similar to her mum. Whereas her mum didn't want the children, would always say to the kids, like, don't talk over us, like, this is an adult conversation, like, don't, like, sit there and be quiet. She almost had that whole mothering, like, maternal aspect to her as well with this Dolly. And she was mothering Dolly and kind of like looking after her, like how she would have wanted to be looked after as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Really sweet. And it shows that real, I think that was the only part of her in that entire book that I saw as innocent child, that like no matter what she's still playing with her toys.
Yeah. But she wanted to be by herself as well, didn't she? Or with Dolly, which is the whole name of the book. The Mercy Step was that she had her own step on the stairs where she would sit and just talk and just be in her own little imaginary world with Dolly, away from all this chaos that was her family life.
Mm, yeah,
Uh, and she's also having a really hard time out in the world, being a black girl in 1960s, 70s Bradford. But actually, there was a lot of positives in that when she was out of the family, wasn't there? Because
yeah,
she loved school and she
yeah,
wanted to be away and she loved libraries. And the positives were, that there was that lovely librarian who welcomed her into the library and opened this whole world to her. And then she had a few nice teachers, didn't she, who really saw her.
yeah.
I loved the Irish teacher, Mr. Kavanagh.
Oh, the PE teacher.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
great. And he said to her, I can't remember how it came about, but she was crying. Was she crying because she wasn't allowed to do something, or she'd been racially insulted, perhaps? And he said something about, oh, well, all we need now is a dog, like referring to the thing that used to actually be up everywhere in that age, unbelievably, no blacks, Irish, or dogs.
yeah,
He had sort of understood what she was going through and
yeah,
what she was up against.
yeah, definitely. I mean, was your favorite character Mercy, or did you have another one?
Oh, I think it had to be Mercy. Yeah,
Yeah,
she
I
was
completely
amazing.
agree. Mine, you couldn't have had any other character as your favorite, really, could you? Because you learn so much about her, and you feel like you kind of go through her life with her. You feel all the emotions that she feels, and like you say, you feel a bit protective over her as well, and you just want her to come out the other end, and for her and her family to just kind of move on from this horrible man and all the horrible things that happened to him in this awful time of life. Um, and yeah, you can't not absolutely love her to pieces.
Yeah. The other characters were just described so beautifully as well. I talked about the older sister who went to London and became cool with her straightened hair and her 60s clothes. And then there was also the sister, was she called Janie, who was always described as being a bit stupid,
Yeah.
but it was just, you could just really see her like, oh, what did she call her? Like a damn fool or something all the
Yeah,
time. So yeah, the characters were great. They were really well fleshed out, I thought.
yeah, there was. I mean, you have to remember as well that best friend got hit by a car behind her house and died.
Yeah. And another friend died as they were jumping over the middens, the outside toilets
Oh yeah,
in
of
the back
course.
street. And I could see that scene so clearly. And then the kid just missed it and hit her head and
Yeah,
died. And that was like the second person in her childhood that she saw die. Like that would be so traumatic for most people, but actually for Mercy, it's just one more thing that
No.
she witnessed,
That's the thing. How were they? How are those parts of the book like the one of the smallest aspects? Because there were so many other things that happened that those parts were didn't really affect her as much as the rest of the other things that were going on.
Yeah. And at one point, she got sent, her mother's really, really religious, isn't she? Like that's a very massive part of her character and understanding the way she is. But at one point, they send Mercy for Christmas down to a family in Birmingham, a reverend,
Oh
and
yeah, of course.
he is a, a pervert, basically. And Mercy manages to get away from him because she sort of begs to come home. And it just shows how unprotected she is. And, her mum doesn't really even want to hear.
Yeah, all our mum was worried about was, oh, what are people gonna say? Rather than because when that thing happened at the school, it was strange because she had like a backbone then, and she really stuck up for Mercy. And I wonder if that was because was the teacher a woman?
Yeah.
Yeah. That I wonder whether she felt like she could stick up for Mercy and kind of kick off in the school because of who that person was and because they were a woman. But when it comes to the guys, they're like, oh, okay, well, what are people gonna think? And it's not right. It's really
No.
awful that that was the mindset of, oh, you just keep quiet because you're not gonna get anywhere. Well, this person's got more power than us, so there's no point trying to say anything.
I think there probably were so many cases where women did just stay quiet and they did just accept that this was something that happened. But because of the way Mercy is, she was never going to accept these things.
No.
It was that made everyone uncomfortable, I think. She was the child that makes people uncomfortable because she voices things.
Was there a scene that stuck with you the most?
I think that scene where her friend is hit by the car, that was really, yeah, I could see the cobbled streets and the rain, and I think it got dark, didn't it? And the flashing lights of the ambulance. And it was one of those scenes in the book where it's not explained to the children at all. And it was that sort of old-fashioned thinking that you didn't need to explain things to children.
Mm.
And I think that's so damaging. And it was never even really talked about again that she'd lost her best friend.
It was just kind of ignored, wasn't it? Like her parents or siblings, and they just kind of pretended it hadn't happened in a way to almost feel like they were protecting Mercy, but in on the other hand, they weren't protecting her. They were making her feel like she couldn't talk about her feelings, and no matter how upset she was, because she said multiple times that she just wished her mum would ask her how she felt about things, and she never would because she just didn't want to have those conversations, I guess.
Well, you just have to get on with it, I guess. Like, how many children did she have in the end, Mercy's mum? And she'd left some behind, and it was hinted that there were children that had died as well. And I guess maybe it's just a different mindset where death is more common,
Mm.
but you maybe don't get attached to people as much because, awful to think about now that you would just dismiss a child's death like that. But
Yeah, absolutely.
you made a note about the line that she learned the right way to smile, which was a really good scene where she's trying to not be beaten up by her dad, basically, because he always says that she's got a frown on her face and she always looks so worried. And so she practices in the mirror not looking worried when he's around so that he doesn't kind of turn on her.
Yeah, it's awful that at that age, or at any age, to be honest, but especially as a child, feeling like you have to act a certain way or do a certain thing, because if you were to get it wrong, you were going to be in big trouble. But she had to grow up so quickly, didn't she?
Yeah.
And it was really quite hard to read at points because you think this poor girl is having her childhood just ripped away from her. And she's having to almost mother her siblings and mother her parents, and she feels like she's the only person who's got a bit of common sense about her.
Yeah, I was really intrigued as to what had happened to all the siblings because I think there's that sort of story arc where you've got the one sort of amazing person in a from a difficult background, whether they're really intelligent or they're very beautiful or they've got some kind of talent that gets them out of that world. And it's kind of a nice story in a way to have that nice ending. But
Mm.
then what about all the people that don't have anything going for them that can't get out of that situation? And I actually listened to an interview with Marcia, and she was talking about how people always said that to her, like how amazing it was that she went to Oxford and she'd had this amazing life. And she sort of reflected on the fact that she was running away all the time. This is not what I want. So she was desperate to get away from it all. And actually, now that she's older, she's trying to run towards things and to actually think about what she really wants. And yeah, I would love to read her story now, what's happening, since being a child. And because I thought that was fascinating, a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really nice way to put it, actually. And the same. I'd like to see her whole life biography.
Yeah.
Do you think it could be made into a film?
I think it could, actually. I mean, I could see it so clearly. And I think that's the power of what brilliant writing it was. I could see the gas fires and the 70s decor and the clothing and the schoolyard and the funny Irish PE teacher. I imagined him, like kind of with big 80s hair and little shorts and a whistle. And I just could see it all so clearly. So yeah, it would be great.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a really good film. And also, I mean, it could make a good series as well, actually, if you think the amount that happens in this novel
Definitely.
within like how many pages is it? It's quite a short book, actually.
Yeah, and I think that was something that actually made it seem even more dangerous as a childhood because all of, like we said before, there were these massive incidents that were just in there, just a normal part of life. Whereas in anyone else's story, that would be the main story.
Yeah, this is such a good point. And to fit all of that into 228 pages with a one-page epilogue,
Yeah,
yeah, so much happened in it. And I mean, the ending was really sweet though, and it was nice to see her kind of finally start to look after herself a little bit. And to say that the process that started 11 years ago is finally coming to an end. She's finally been slowly chewing through the umbilicus and finally severed the cord so she can breathe for herself.
yeah. She
Such
realizes that she can't save her mother, but she can save herself. But I mean, no 11-year-old should be coming to that conclusion, should they?
No, I can't believe that by the end of the book that's the only age that she is.
Yeah,
Just because of the life that she's experienced and everything that she's kind of had to go through, and to think that that's all happened in 11 years. Oof. I'd like to see a second book of the next 11 years of her life.
I would. Yeah. So many amazing incidents. Like she almost didn't get to take the 11 plus exam, did she? Which was
Mm.
so important to getting her into the grammar school, which would have then got her into university because she was called back, um, and not told why. Another reason, like people not feeling that they had to explain things to children. She was just called away from the exam and to go home, and she had to get, was it 2 or 3 buses home? And when she gets there, she's like, "What is so important that I've been pulled away?" And it was that her father had died, which obviously for most people would be a reason to not take an exam. But she was like, "Oh, for goodness sake," and just turned around and went back, didn't she? Which I just made me love her even more, to be honest. But and then she went off, and yeah, anyone else would have thought that she needed to be at home with her family, but she was so annoyed with them by that point that she just went back and took her exam and saved herself.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a strong cookie, isn't she?
Well, it's a brilliant book, and I would recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, me too, 100%. And it's it's out now and can be bought everywhere. So would fully recommend everybody gives that a read as well as gets the copy of Writing Magazine to read her article on autofiction.
Yep, we're doing a lot this month, aren't we, about autofiction and creative nonfiction, memoir, all the things that I love to talk about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that. It's been a lovely chat.
And I'll see you next time for the next book club when we've decided what we're going to read.
Ooh, I can't wait. Thanks for tuning into the Write Club. We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to keep writing. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at Writers Online, your go-to for writing tips, competitions, and exclusive updates. Plus, you'll never miss an episode of the Write Club. Until next time, happy writing.